Hey, this is Mike Lindsay from Vital MX. We're out here in South Carolina at Randy Hawkins' private facility riding the 2019 Yamaha YZ450FX. Per usual with the FX line, Yamaha has gone through and done that major update the year following the motocross model. In 2018, we had an all-new YZ450F, so they've brought all those major changes over to 19 for the FX, along with the usual small little details here and there that makes the FX so unique and special in its own terrain. Those small changes are things that some people could do to an F model, but there are a few unique things that really stand out. The biggest one being the transmission. It does have a wide ratio 5-speed. The biggest differences when you look on paper are first and fifth gear. Second, third, and fourth are actually pretty close to the motocross model, but they really bring that first gear down a lot lower and bring the fifth gear way taller to really expand the overall usability and range of the bike. The conditions we have out here are really more catered to that GNCC enduro style crowd. We're in the trees all day, it's very tight, there's creek bottoms, a lot of wet material and clay. And what I found is the bike is still what I would set up as more middle ground. I feel like if I was out in the desert or the hills out in California, I would probably be a little more initially comfortable. For this tight stuff, it was just a tad off for me, but it was very easy to fix. I felt like initially I needed a little more comfort at my lightweight, so a couple clicks open on compression really helped me just get to settle over the small tree roots and over the small rocks. And then the throttle response is still pretty sharp on this bike out of the box stock. There are 2 maps on it. Your second one is of course a lot more mellow, but I found that to be much more of a real just cruise on tractor feel, really good in the wet stuff, but for the tight trails, I need something that was a little bit different. We're able to jump on our phone. Yamaha's got their new app and it carries over to this bike. And what I found just in their base maps is their torquing map. That might sound like maybe it's gonna be brutal. It really wasn't. For me, it got rid of that sharp initial crack of the throttle. It actually fattened it up a little bit so I had more of a tractor roll-on feel, a lot more usable. But at the same time, it also got rid of the sharpness when I chopped the throttle. So as you were blipping in and out of the trees and trying to roll into the corner, the bike didn't feel like it lurched over the front as much when you cut the throttle. It didn't feel like it loaded the front as hard, and it made it easier to roll through the corners. It sounds like such a small change, but it really changed the characteristic of feeling like I'm on a big aggressive 450 into something much more light and maneuverable that allowed me to work through the trees and save a ton of energy along with going faster. From there, it's the little things to make it more compliant. The suspension settings, the ECU mapping, the tire choice, even the way they do the engine mounts and axle size, just a couple little things that make the bike work so much better in the little stuff, the rocks, the tree roots, the things are slick. They want the front end, the rear end on this bike to fold more, to follow the ground, to just not deflect. Because if you take a motocross bike out here, every little tree root, you feel it. The bike just deflects and skips off of it. It won't track over it. But at the same time, there is a motocross track on the property and we've ridden this style of bike all the time on motocross tracks. It's 90 to 95% of what the F is capable on those terrain, but it's a much larger gap when you get in the off-road. I would say the biggest thing about this bike is it's probably a better everyday or every man's bike than the motocross model is. Whether you're doing motocross, I would say there's a large amount of people that would actually be better off on this. Between the mapping, that gear spread, and the overall flex of the chassis, there's just more comfort here. It's more mellow. It really helps when the track gets rough. I mean, what I really found is kind of repeating what I just said at the beginning. This bike really is probably better for the majority of guys on a motocross track, and it just has so much more range of usability.